Hey YouTube. Alright, so this is a review of the Caribou CCS18. This is a new stove to me. It was sent to me a couple weeks ago by mistake. It's the 18-inch version. I'll just go over some things I like and I don't like. So this stove came to me as a mistake as I ordered the Camp Chef Alpine. It looks like the Camp Chef Alpine, except for it's about 1/4 the size. Everything about it is compact, lightweight. I kind of like how compact and lightweight it is if it were to actually work as it should. I haven't had any luck, which is why it's being sent back. But, you know, for a lightweight $145 stove on Amazon, you know, it's about what you expect. There's a little bit of wobble in the door, but that doesn't bother me. And this kind of dinky, but again, none of this bothers me because it's all lightweight. What does bother me, I'll let you see up close, is, well, I like the little Caribou. But this, I have a little clip on it. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. I probably can't. So I'll sit the camera down. But this clip, if you can see what happens here, this is the air door, and it opens and closes, lets air in and out, so you could vent. But as you can see, it likes to work its way into the closed position. So right here, it's open, but you just bump it the wrong way, and it likes to, with just gravity, fall. Or if you go too far, it closes itself again. So it likes this one spot right there. And I find that the only way the stove operates properly is if you keep it open all the time. And I just like to put a little clip right here to make sure that this thing, this little vent lever, doesn't actually go into the closed position. It comes with some really good accessories. These grates are good for lightweight cookware, maybe drying some things. You couldn't put much weight. I do love the tubing. It has a stainless steel stack and a little flame arrestor, spark arrestor at the top. One thing I don't like about it is it fits so snug that you can't get these pieces apart unless, I suppose, when they're warm. So that could be a problem. Yeah, so if you were to use this stove out camping, I would suggest that bring a couple pair of hot gloves and try to get those sections apart while the stove's still hot. Okay, so we'll light it up, and assuming I have a lighter on me. Oh, that would be funny. I'm trying to make a video. I don't have a lighter. Okay, I'm gonna pause this while I go get one. Okay, I'm back with my lighter. I'll light this thing. I already stuffed it full. I got some newspaper. I got a little bit of oil, old cooking oil, on this newspaper, so it should make the paper burn for a little bit. Okay, so while we're waiting for this to go, presuming it really starts, I'll tell you what I liked about this thing and don't like about it. So obviously lightweight, compact size is great. The issue I had was this 1.5-inch exhaust pipe is too small. It's really on the inside of this pipe, the outside looks like about, I don't know, maybe it's 2 inches. The inside's about yay big around, and it's just not enough vent, suction through the flue to pull all the flame and all the smoke up through the chimney. So what happens, well, aside from me not being able to start this thing, Well, that's not uncommon. What happens is you're trying to make a fire, and it's basically physics. The amount of flame that can exist in here is only relative to the amount of air that could exhaust up this flue. And it's only going to be, you can only suck that much air through this small chimney. And as a result, you get this oxygen-starved fire. Now, you can improve the situation by leaving the door open, and that adds a lot of air, to the fire, which helps get the fire going. But you see all the smoke right now? If we were in a tent, we'd be getting smoked out. And I had this installed in a little tarp wall structure, and the 10 times we used it, we got smoked out of there 10 times. Okay, we're still going. Then when we were able to run it where it wouldn't get smoky, it barely made any heat. And it seemed like if you opened up the door, it would get more hot, but it would be so smoky in there you couldn't even stand in the room. So if you're trying to have a smoke-free tent, I haven't figured out how to do it with this stove. Okay, well apparently my first effort's not working. I'm gonna get some more lighter fluid stuff and start again here. Alright, so what I have here, a couple paper towels, old cooking oil. I deep fried some chicken a month ago, and I saved the oil because it got nasty. Anyway, you put some of this oil on this paper towel. There we go. So anytime you guys are cleaning your oily pans and you wipe them with the paper towel, I have a little jar in my kitchen. I collect oily paper towels and I save them in a jar so I can start fires with them. Hopefully you can see that. And so that oil usually makes that paper towel burn for about 10 minutes. We'll see if we're lucky enough to get this fire to start. Some of that wood in there is pretty dry. So, again, you can see what's going on. See all this smoke pouring out the door? If you were inside a tent, you'd be getting smoked out. So I don't know how you would use this in a tent. I really want to keep this stove. If I could figure out a way to get it to stop smoking, I would keep this stove, despite its shortcomings. So we're going to let it get going, and then I'm going to close the door, and you guys can kind of get an idea of what's going on here. So here, I'm going to show you the amount of smoke coming out of the fire, or out of the chimney. So, good amount of smoke coming out of the chimney. That's pretty good. But again, look at the amount of smoke coming out of the door. I would say it's probably a third of the smoke's coming out of the door, and 2/3 smoke's coming out of the chimney. But, so while this is going, let's talk about the accessories. So this thing comes with some really cool things that I like. It comes with this useful rod, and it has this little ash. You could clean out the stove, and it screws off and on. this little threaded guy. So this really helps push your logs in. It helps pull the ash out when you're trying to clean it. And then what's really cool, they give you a cleaning brush. So you could screw this on, and this is useful to, you know, clean out each section of your pipe, of your flue. And then they also give you this cool little tool, which I guess is to operate the door, which, hey, that's kind of neat. Sometimes with these trays on the side, I like to set the logs that I'm about to burn on each side. And when you're not, we don't need them for anything else, but that's useful if you want to dry out the wood you're about to use. So what else does this have? It has a nice little carrying case for the legs, and it has a carrying bag for this is for the bristly brush that cleans out the flue sections. I imagine you could put other things in here too. Maybe that's going to fit in there. But you have this really nice, I mean, it's cheap, it's light, but it worked. You put the whole stove in this carrying bag. So that's like kind of a cool feature. What is it? So, one thing that I did while we're waiting on the fire, I went to a muffler shop, and hopefully you all can see this. I had them bend an exhaust pipe, and they flanged out both ends. And so, kind of, well, I got it upside down, but it goes like that. And so, you know, when I used it in my tarp shelter, I used this as a stove jack. And who knows, maybe this long pipe is why it didn't work good for me, but I don't think so. See all the smoke we're still getting? Alright. So it kind of looks like we have something resembling a fire in there. I'm going to try to put this log in here. I'm going to go with this one. This one's a little smaller. So one thing that, you know, if you're like me, you're probably looking for a stove to go camping with in the dead of winter. And obviously it gets cold at night, and what you're trying to do is, ideally you want to have a stove that keeps you warm all night in your tent. And the concept of a whole, you know, hot tent is so that you can go to sleep at night and be warm all night. Now this stove, I don't think you're going to get 6 hours, you know, or 8 hours, whatever it is, of burn time. I think that maybe my experience is you could be, I don't know, hour and a half before you got to restoke it. So you're not really going to get good night's sleep. You're going to be waking up every hour, hour and a half, you know, to restoke the fire and put another log in. They do make these things. I was experimenting with them. These things are compressed sawdust, and I tried to burn it in there. I guess I didn't have the fire hot enough, but it only smoldered and it burnt a corner. But I was experimenting to see if I could get a longer burn time. Anyway, I don't know where that experiment's going. Maybe at the end of this fire, I'll throw it in there. So, again, we're waiting on this bigger log to catch. Here, I'll throw in another one. I wouldn't call this a raging fire. Let's see if I can bring this. Okay. I think this piece might even, well, this piece won't fit. And it might fit in diagonally. I'll just leave it up here. So as you can see, we have fire in this guy. But look at the amount of smoke. Again, if we're in a tent, you better have all the windows and all the doors open while you're trying to start this thing, because this is what you're dealing with. It's just such a smoky event. You see the smoke coming up. Alright, so what I'm waiting for is I'm waiting for it to get a good raging fire in here before I close that door. Now, in my experience, what happens when you close that door, these air holes are not sufficient air to sustain a good fire in here. If I were to fix this thing, I would probably, I don't know, drill more holes in the backside of it and install a second flue. Seems like you're kind of re-engineering the whole thing. It just doesn't seem worth it. Now, there's probably somebody out there who has perfectly dry oak and better technique than me and can get this thing going, and great for you. I'm just telling you my experience with it. It's been very, very difficult trying to get it to work for what I'm trying to do. I'm gonna pause this, come back in like 5 minutes, see how it's going. Okay, so it's probably been 10 minutes, and the fire's more mature. I wouldn't call this a rolling fire by any means, but it's, it's halfway decent. Kind of see what it looks like. So, you see all the smoke that's coming out? If this were in a tent, you'd be dealing with this. And then there's the smoke coming up through the vent. So, now I'm going to show you guys what happens when I close this door. So in a perfect world, if we were inside a tent, this eliminates the smoke coming out of into the tent. This should self-sustain and burn. And that, if we were getting a clean burn, you should see almost no smoke at all. But what you're seeing there is evidence of an oxygen-starved burn. Now, some people might say, well, your wood is too wet. Well, that might be so, but I have another wood-burning stove. I actually have the stove that I ordered, the Camp Chef Alpine. And when it burns, it makes no smoke coming out of the fire pit, or coming out of the flue. So now, let's look to see what happened with my flame. Okay, well, I still have some fire in there. Okay, well, that's a good sign. My experience was as soon as I hit that door, it was putting out it was dampening the fire. I couldn't get enough oxygen in it. Right now, it seems like it's doing okay. I'm gonna pause the camera and come back in like 2 minutes and see if it's still doing okay. Okay, hey, it's been about 2 or 3 minutes. I went and got myself a cup of coffee in the kitchen, and so we still have, here, I'll show you guys, we still have a pretty good amount of smoke coming up there. So that's good. What we don't have is we don't have any smoke coming out here, so that's pretty good. I'm going to open up the door. We're going to check the fire. Okay, so it kind of looks like it's slowed down from where it was. Maybe it just needs to be stirred a little bit, but here again, you see all the smoke coming out at me? If we were in a tent and I tried to stoke this fire, there'd be quite a bit of smoke coming back out at you. So you'd have to deal with that. So anyway, I do think that this pipe that I showed you earlier, that I had the muffler shop bend for me, I do think that this probably was a bad idea. I think it reduced the flue suction because it seems like it's performing better for me now. As far as it being a stove that I would want on a cold night in a tent, if you had a really, really small, like 2-person tent, and you had the best wood, like the best oak, maybe you brought the best oak with you and didn't have to rely on finding it, this stove would probably work out okay for you. For me, alright, you see, well, I say that. Here's what happened. My fire's kind of dead. And look at all this smoke coming out. So, I don't know. I'm not having luck. Maybe if you had the world's best wood, you'd have better luck. But anyway, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I need viewers. Google changed, or YouTube changed their rules, so I need a few more viewers to put me over the 1,000 mark. Hope you have enjoyed the model, or the review of this Caribou CCS18 stove.